Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Fits here in Blackstone, Virginia, the center of the world where everything fits or nothing fits. Anyway, so I got to, the title of this talk is Before Elvis and After Elvis. You know, like BC and AC, before Jesus Christ and after Christ. Well, let's say BE and AE. Well, I was just writing. I get, when I get on Facebook and I start, I get stimulated. Something gets stirred and wants to come up. It's kind of like having a BM in the morning. This something wants to come out, and let's not get too scatological here. Anyway, so before Elvis, see, I'm at 86. I remember the 50s. I mean, I graduated from high school in 1955, so I was smack dab in the middle. And I can tell you, whatever age you're in, I mean, culture age, like we're in the 2000, it's hard. The 2003s, it's hard to, with 2000, it's kind of hard to say where you're at, but we're swimming in now. We're swimming in culture, right? We're swimming in our culture. So culture is kind of like a karmic stream, so we're swimming in a river of, that we're being carried along by this historical stream we call time, or our culture. And our culture, our society, but culture is includes everything. Culture includes the arts, the science, everything, you see. So the culture has a shape to it. And it's like a fishbowl. But you can't see it when you're in the culture. We can look back and see it. That's what, The Shape of Water. You remember that movie? I love that movie because it was the shape of the 50s. The 50s had a shape to it. And but the movie was, of course, it was metaphorical, and then it pointed beyond the 50s. But so when you have movies of the 50s, or timepieces, you can see the shape of the culture. We like that, because we can kind of like see what a world was like then, and the people in it didn't see that. Oh, I can see it now, So we can look back on our own life and see the shape of it that we couldn't see when we were in it, but now we can see. We can see the shape, And you can't see the shape of anything unless you're outside of it. So when I was writing about Elvis this morning, and from the point of view that he broke the fishbowl of the 50s. And so the fishbowl of the 50s was a sexually, we'll say sexually repressive, but it was a body repressive culture. There was a containment of the joy of the body. You could see that in the censorship. I mean, I remember, going in Norfolk, Virginia, going to the grocery store, and there was the blue laws. So everything on Sunday, everything but food had covers over it. You couldn't buy anything on Sunday. And in the books were banned. There was a ban list. Movies were banned. They got censorship in movies. If anybody mentioned pregnant in the movie, it got an X rating or one. In other words, you couldn't even say pregnant. So there was a kind of a sexually very Victorian. It was kind of like the last of the Victorian age, in the sense that Victorianism was body repressive. The body was kept down. It was mind was the dominant. And in music, singing, all of the crooners, Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra, Al Jolson, all of them sang from the neck up. Their body would be still, and they put all of their energy into the sound. That's why we love the sound, and so you could listen to the sound, and you didn't have to need a body, you see. But the body wasn't included in the music. And if you danced, it was controlled by a pattern. The ballroom dancing, so you had a pattern, and the body had a corset on. When I met my wife in 1959, she was wearing a corset. She was a 50s girl. She white gloves, hat, corset, stockings, and then there was a liberation from that. You see, so all this metaphorically, you can see the constraint on the body. Of course, this manifests in constraint on black people and women because they were more in touch with the body. So anything that was that awakened the body, the joy of the body, was pushed down, you see. And this created a pressure cooker in the 50s, and some people began to break through the cracks in it. Alan Watts and Elvis and Thomas Merton and all of these we'll say founding fathers of the age we live in now were the ones who were breaking through or out of this pressure against the body, against the joy of being. The joy of just being was breaking out. And then in the 60s, all hell broke loose, as you know, as a whole generation broke out. And then, of course, there came the backlash or the conservative reaction to it. Law and order. Law and order. Can't have all of this spontaneous stuff going on, There's no control over that. So the repression came. So we're still in this. We're still before and after Elvis. See? So I brought Elvis up here as a kind of a metaphor to point that, because if you go back and look at his uncensored, when he first came out, he was censored. When Elvis came on the Sullivan Show, he's only shown from the waist up. They wanted to bring him down to a talking head, a singing head, But he was a singing body. It was a singing body. His body was singing, And that's why he was repressed and feared, and crucified and censored and excommunicated and whatever from the mind society, which is dead from the neck up or from the neck down. Brought the butt, particularly the pelvis, like Elvis the pelvis. Why? Well, his pelvis gyrated. Now, what does that mean? You see, that is body energy, sexual energy, kundalini energy, whatever you want to call it, but it was life energy, and so anyway, this before and after Elvis for me is kind of like metaphorical for the first crack in the mind body, the mind separation from the body came together in Elvis. You see, this is why with Zorba the Greek. I connected him up with Elvis because Zorba came and taught the Englishman, who was a head person, an intellectual person, how to dance, how to be one with life, how to be one with the body and mind as one instead of two. So, this body-mind, there's something that we need to, you can really dig into as kind of like a simple formula, of trying to understand why we suffer. So and this is, so Zen basically is a practice or a way of the body-mind being together as one. The body-mind as one, which is like form is the body and the world, the physical world, and emptiness is the mind or knowing, and body and mind are different, but in the dance of life, they're one. In the dance, they're one. So this dance that came out with Elvis and others like Elvis, were basically a liberation of life itself, and the body and the mind being one in the music. And of course, when the dance is over, you see, you go back to the separation, because the karmic pull of the fishbowl of the society is that of the separation of mind from body. So this separation, you see, we call it the real world, is you're separate from the world. You're separate from the room. You're looking around at the room and you see everything is separate from you. Well, the mind is the body, the room is your body. You are the room from the dimension of the body. This is the body, the room is a body, all these things here are bodies. And the mind says, oh, well, I'm a thing and there's a bunch of things over there. But my mind is separate, you see. That's why I can know all these things, because my mind is separate. My mind is totally separate from the body. But the body, you see, this gap, you see, was institutionalized, was cemented by culture, and it creates, it's like a taffy pull or a rubber band. The farther the mind gets from the body, the greater the tension, and then there will be explosions where the mind and body come together. And of course, Elvis and the like, metaphorically, was this coming back together in the dance, in the music, snap, and there was a joyous release in it. The joy of the dance, look in the 60s, and the joy of the dance and the rock and roll was coming together of the body and the mind. It's androgynous. All the rock and roll star was a Dionysian mystery rite, where the body and mind were one in that music, in that rock and roll. So anyway, I'm just rambling on here about a basic, using Elvis as a Zorba who came into society and taught the Englishman, the intellect, how to dance, brought the mind and body together in the dance. So don't take this too seriously. Thanks for dropping in.